Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends, I hope you're having a fantastic day and a great start to your weekend. My name is Teresa and I love all things makeup, beauty and skincare, so every weekend I like to hang out with you guys and talk about the new makeup, beauty and skincare releases that we collectively found rather interesting. So a massive thank you to everyone who tagged me. You know the drill, if you didn't tag me there'd be no episode, it would just be me staring at the camera and we both get very uncomfortable, so thanks for that. A massive thank you also to my YouTube community members. You know where all the dead bodies are, and I appreciate that. Have I just gotten demonetized by talking about dead bodies? Who even knows? But there you go. But we do have quite a few things to talk about, so please remember, hydration is key. Have a little guess what I have. Yeah, it's tea. I mean, look, there's certain things that you can count on, and me drinking tea is always going to be one of them. So let's just get straight into it. So the first thing that we're talking about is Blend Bunny and Taj, who is also known as Donidarkowitz over on Instagram, and they launched their Little Miss She Never Misses collection, and it includes a 25 shade palette for €42.95, the Simply Put highlighter quad for €31.95, the High Shine gloss for €13.95, and the 89 velour lip liner for €10.95. The major thing that I was kind of surprised about was that this collaboration didn't happen sooner. I was kind of surprised that the Ellis Atlantis collaboration happened before this, because Tash has been a long time supporter of Blend Bunny and very kind of openly so. So I feel like this actually makes a huge amount of sense. When looking at the eyeshadow palette, is it kind of reminiscent to what Blend Bunny has done before? Yeah, it absolutely is. But I mean, they are different tones. They're deeper, they're darker. And the fabulous Deandra Nicole actually put together some pictures showing how different they actually are from the different palettes that existed. And apparently Tash worked very hard to make sure that the colours didn't actually dupe existing palettes. I do feel when looking at this that she's basically gone for the kind of colour story that is part of what made Blend Bunny come to life for most people, that kind of put it on the map. The greens, the blues, the purples, etc., and doing that really nice, very aesthetically pleasing colour gradient. So you can tell when you're looking at this that this was put together by somebody who's been a long time lover of Blend Bunny, so I really appreciate that. Now Taj is also a woman of colour, so she has obviously deeper skin tones, and actually the palette reflects that, so is probably going to work a little bit better for deeper skin tones than previous palettes did. So personally I think that's pretty darn good. Do I necessarily need this? No I don't, but you guys know I have like a ridiculous amount of eyeshadow. I could buy zero eyeshadow going forward and I would still have way more than is actually necessary, but I think it's pretty good. It does look quite nice. Would I necessarily get this palette? No, not really, simply because I mean I have a lot of shades that are like this. Do they necessarily dupe them? No, but to me I don't necessarily need duping. It just kind of gives the same sort of vibe, and I'd have that from other palettes, other brands. I do like Blend Bunny's formula, so I don't have anything negative to say about that, but the palette just isn't for me, and that's totally fine, you know, it's grand, but I think it'll do well. And the swatches look really pretty. I mean, particularly when they're kind of put together in that kind of cohesive colour story. Deandra Nicole also did some really nice swatches that are up on their website right now, and that looks really good. The highlighter quad, again, quite interesting. They haven't done anything like this in a while. They did obviously the Noctilucent is their most well-known highlighter palette, but I think they did like some highlighter things with the Ellis Atlantis one as well. What I appreciate about this is that in Deandra Nicole's swatches, she shows that yes, you could pile it on to have it be like really intense in terms of pigment, but you can also fade it out to be much more of a gradient, and it doesn't seem to leave too much of a cast on deeper skin tones. That being said, it's kind of hard to tell via an arm swatch. I will say this time and time again, anything that's blush, anything that's highlighter, I personally feel like we need to see it on the actual face rather than swatches on the arm, because we need to see how it's actually going to blend out and look like. A big stripe of colour isn't really going to show us what that blush is going to look like, what that highlighter is necessarily going to look like. I don't know about you, but I don't want a big streak of silver on my face. I mean, sometimes I do, but usually with highlighter I don't. I'm intrigued by that, but it's not really one for me. The thing that I think is the most interesting part of this collection is actually the lip liner, which is basically a black lip liner. They have also said that you could use it as an eyeliner if you wanted to, and then that can be combined with that lip gloss. So where she came from this was very much kind of like nostalgia, because she said that she remembered growing up seeing her mum and her aunts and lots of people in her community wearing like a black lip liner and pairing it with like Carmex and Vaseline, and just thinking it was the height of sophistication. And she said that she's had like a massive issue trying trying to find lip liners that look like that it's very much a case of like, oh, I have to make it work, and hey, you shouldn't have to make it work, which I think is really, really cool. And also Deandra Nicole has shown us what it looks like, and I gotta say, for me, I know that the big thing in collections tends to be like, oh, look at the eyeshadow palette, oh, look at the highlighter, but for me, I actually feel like the thing that really steals this collection is the lip liner and the lip gloss, and I could see this being one of those like repurchase things, which I think is very, very smart, because palettes don't tend to get repurchased, highlighter quads don't tend to get repurchased that often, unless, I don't know, you've like broken it or something, but like it takes a while to hit pan on these things. But things like a lip liner, like a favorite lip liner and a favorite lip gloss, that is smart to come out with, because I mean, people will come back and repurchase that. Like, there's only so much of it you can use. So for me, I feel like that is the smartest part of the collection, and I personally think it looks really, really beautiful. Would I get that? I kind of would. If this is coming to Glisten Cosmetics, because Glisten Cosmetics does actually stock Blend Bunny, and I am an affiliate with them for a little bit, only for another few weeks, because nobody uses my code, so they're like, there's no point, Teresa, and I'm like, that's fair. That's fair. But if you want, you can use my code Teresa to get you some money off. My friend Daniela also has a code. It's Cosmic Peaches. You can get some money off. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if that lip liner comes and that gloss comes to Glisten, I could be tempted. I could definitely be wrangled into that. Then the next thing that we're talking about is Nomad Cosmetics, and we had a sneak peek of it last week, and this is their Fuji palette, and this is available right now. It's available for €45.95. There's obviously codes that you can use to get money off, etc. So there's 9 mattes, there's 5 luminescent shimmers, and 1 brilliant duochrome. It's not limited edition, so don't worry if you didn't catch it this release, you're totally fine. But they also are giving money towards like specific causes as part of this. It's the More Trees Forest Conservation Organization. They do that with most of their launches. The formula itself has no parabens, no phthalates, no mineral oil, and no talc. So for me to have a price of €45.95 for a 15-pan palette, so just a little over €3 per shade, and have it be without talc, amazing. I'm going to briefly talk about the outside of the palette, because I know that's like not a big thing, but oh my god, I just want to touch it. I want to touch it. The texture looks really, really interesting. So they say a work of art illustration painted on canvas material with unique surface texture. The textured leaves add a picture-perfect frame around the beautiful Mount Fuji. Oh, excuse me, like that's so interesting. I feel like their packaging in general has just kind of elevated over the last while, so I'm like, And they don't tend to do the same thing over and over again. Like they've had those, God, I can't even remember the name, the flippy flappy ones. Kelsey, you know what I'm talking about. I can't. Venticular, there we go. They have those venticular things before that they had with the Haunted Europe, etc., which was really, really interesting, and they had that with the Ghost Town palette. But I love that they haven't kind of gone, this is our one trick pony and we'll keep doing the same thing. And they had that beautiful velvet packaging with the Ireland Wild Atlantic Way, which, oh, I mean, obviously that is like stunning to me. These shades, we'll talk about the shades. Really, really pretty. Not quite what I was expecting. I will say, I thought we were going to see maybe some lavender just based upon when they showed like some Pantone colors, but this is very, very pretty. Is this expected? No. And I quite like this. I feel like everything works quite well together. It's structured in such like a pleasantly ratioed way. Like there's a good amount of reds to yellows to blues, and you can obviously use yellow with blue, you can use yellow with red, a blue with red. Like they're all complementary. There's no shades here that I'd be like, God, I'd not really know how to work with those colors. Do Nomad give you expected color stories? No, and thank God they don't. I'm so sick of the copy paste color stories. This is genuinely quite interesting, quite original. Is it 100% me? No, but that's mostly because I'm not like that into red eyeshadows. I just think they look a little bit strange on me. I'm interested in that like yellow matte shadow, simply because it's hard to get a good yellow matte, and that looks pretty good, I have to say. Look, I like Nomad. I feel like they've really stepped it up in the last couple of years. They've kind of been changing around their formula a little bit, and I just think it's damn good. Like there's nothing else to say other than it's damn good. Then we have Singe Beauty. Now, if you don't know Singe Beauty, it is a brand that was put forward by Angelica Nickfist, who is obviously very popular here on YouTube. And she started off with brushes, which were extremely popular. I've heard nothing but good things about it. But now we're finally seeing an actual makeup item, and these are the Evocative Glowy blushes. Now, they claim that they're glowy but not sparkly powder blushes. So I kind of have been wondering how similar are they to the MAC Glow Play, which I'm super interested in. They're $18 each, but you can get a bundle of 4 for $65. I think this is really, really pretty. Can I also just say the packaging in and of itself is kind of cute. There's something that kind of makes me think of the 60s and just kind of really fun vibes. That yellowy orange shade, I mean, of course she's going to put that in, like that's Angelica's sort of shade, like she kind of can't resist that. But I appreciate that she's put in like a pink, which is a lot more safe. That deep kind of red is going to be very pretty on deeper skin tones. Do I feel that this is an exhaustive list of shades that you could use as blushes? No, it's not. But like, she's a small brand, she's starting off. I think this is definitely very promising. She's kind of been doing things little by little and not doing like huge launches, which I personally prefer. It feels like she's actually doing this from a very strategic, well-considered manner of, I want to make sure that I'm only introducing or releasing stuff that is worthwhile rather than just trying to get quantity and throwing everything at the wall and seeing what'll stick. So I have a lot of faith in this. I do. Do I need more blushes? I absolutely don't. Oh, and I have a couple of expenses coming up. I mean, we all do. Let's be 100% real. I feel like $18, that's not bad at all for a blush. I'd like to know exactly what the ingredients are in it. Like if it's glowy, is there like a lot of like silica and stuff in it? If that's the case, because this came up with the Fenty blushes, apparently there was quite a bit of silica in them, and they've given like a really weird sort of ashy texture to anyone who has a deeper skin tone. Gloria really showed them on her channel. I'd like to know if there's silica in it. It wouldn't affect my experience of it, but it would affect obviously people who have a deeper skin tone, so maybe keep a little eye out for that. They'll probably have all the ingredients listed by the time that you're watching this. I think it's done really well. It's pretty, it's aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, nothing negative to say. Then we have Natasha Denona, and I said this when I saw it initially. I was like, oh, why are they re-advertising the I Need a Nude? By the way, everyone kept saying in my comments over on YouTube of like, oh, I already have the INAN palette. And I was like, INAN? And I just kept thinking of Anan, who was married to David Bowie, and I was like, did she do an eyeshadow palette? Because she has her own makeup line. And I was very confused, and it took me a while, far more than I'm comfortable with admitting, to realise that you guys meant I Need a Nude. So yeah, there you go. Anyways, this is available now. It's the I Need a Warm eyeshadow palette for $69. You can use my code blah 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 for 15% off. If you're a big neutral eyeshadow wearer, you're probably going to enjoy this. I know that there's a lot of nuance when it comes to neutral eyeshadows, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest neutral eyeshadow wearer. I've gotten more into it in the last couple of years, but I still kind of go, oh, it all looks kind of similar to me, and I kind of have to have it pointed out to me, like the differences. They do have two brand new innovative formulas. There's the Slip Cream Matte and the Metal Gloss, and by the way, that really interesting shade that you're looking at, Phenomena, is a special Triochrome eyeshadow edition. So if you have the Triochrome palette and you liked the sort of multi-chrome finish on that, it's probably going to be quite similar. Do I think this is very pretty to look at? Yeah, I do. And actually somebody pointed out to me, and I think this was super relevant, that this palette is going to work an awful lot better on deeper skin tones than the I Need a Nude. Actually, on that alone, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm interested in this. Do I need this? I absolutely don't, and I know that I don't. I have enough shades from other palettes that I'm okay. Like for instance, the Cosmic Brushes Neutrals has like a lot of shades in here that are quite similar. I'm gonna say it right now though, I think I need to be in some sort of a program when it comes to Natasha Denona, because I'm like, it's like everything she does I just get a little bit like fixated on, and I do enjoy it, but like I don't need to have it all. That's like a really unhealthy mindset for me. And I initially was like, no, you don't need this, but then the more I looked at it, I was like, I can see how this is actually different, because they did put a picture up on their website having the I Need a Nude next to the I Need a Warm, and I'm like, oh, they don't even look slightly similar at all. So I'm like, oh no, they're not the same. I could totally justify having the two. The pyrotechnics, the gymnastics, and yes, I did mean pyrotechnics of actual fireworks, because I feel like that's what goes on in my head. The gymnastics in my brain to justify these things is a little bit concerning. I do think it looks pretty. I do not need it. I'll probably get it at some point because I'm ridiculous, and I'm just going to admit that right here, right now. And I don't need your judgment, frankly. I need your support, I need your love, I need your sympathy for the issues. But would I pay full price for this? No, I wouldn't even get it with the discount codes. Like if this is like 25% off on like Cult Beauty or Look Fantastic or whatever, then yes. And I need you to not point out how ridiculous that is. Like the thing is, like, part of why I gravitate so much towards Natasha Denona is I just can't fault her formula. It's so good. Like, it's so, so good. That's why I have so much of her stuff. So, although it is true that I could dupe a lot of these like shades from other brands, I can't dupe the formula. And I know I did kind of say previously, and the more I looked at it, like, that I thought, oh, maybe the bronze or the glam, etc. from Natasha Denona was similar to this. The more I looked at it, I was like, oh, kind of isn't, because the bronze is a little bit more orange and this is more like camely. I don't really know. I'm not good with words, which is why me doing this is ridiculous. But basically, long story short, I'm just sitting here tying myself into knots, trying to justify getting this when I know there's absolutely no reason for me to get it, but it does look so pretty. And also just that shade Phenomena is making me feel things like I would just shove that all over the lid and be like, gaze upon me, villagers, tell me how beautiful and glorious I am as your queen. And I feel it would have that exact sort of an outcome, which is exactly what you want for the palette that is that expensive. Then we have NYX, and I suspect they're one of the first of many brands to be doing a Beetlejuice collection, because obviously the Beetlejuice film is coming out in September. When I tell you I cannot wait for the film, I can't wait. Now, apparently Michael Keaton said he didn't want to be on screen for like a lot of it as Beetlejuice, because he said he was only in 17 minutes for the first one. He was like, we can't go too much over that for this one. So I'd say he's only going to be in it for like 18, maybe 19 minutes max, which I'm like, oh, but I get why he's saying that. And also, fun fact, they decided not to get Alec Baldwin and Geena Davis back simply because they were meant to be ghosts and they've clearly aged and it would just look a little bit weird, which I'm like, okay, fair, suspend my disbelief. Anyways, that is not the point. Let's talk about this collection. You can get the whole thing in a Pore box collection for $110. It includes an eyeshadow palette, there's a blush palette, there's this cute little sponge collection, there's reusable eye patches, there's these dual-ended chrome liners, there's the butter glosses, and then there's just a standard gloss as well. Yeah, let's maybe talk about the eyeshadow palette. So the eyeshadow palette you can actually get by itself for $18. It is, by the way, limited edition, so if you want it, you better get it fast. And somebody said this and I'm inclined to agree with them. It almost feels like it doesn't translate from the palette onto the swatches. Like, I look at it and I'm like, are we really talking about the same thing? Because it doesn't look like it's the same thing at all. It's really strange, like particularly that green that's in the palette, and then it's like, what, a yellow on the arm? Really, really weird. And I said this before, why on earth are those three bottom shades like highlighted, like circled in green? That drives me a little bit nuts. Like, are they super special? Are they a totally different formula? But then they don't seem to be a totally different formula. This feels very lackluster, and can I also just say, seeing it on the eye, she. I don't have a lot of faith when they do limited edition stuff, because NYX is either really great or it's terrible. No middle ground. And when you've done something that's limited edition, it kind of means they're not going to put an awful lot of time and effort into product development and testing, etc., because they're like, they're going to try and cut their costs essentially, and they're already paying for an IP, so that's going to like cut down the profit margins, and you can kind of see it here. It doesn't look great, or at least that's what I think. And the thing that I was somewhat interested in was that like little blush palette, and that's $13. And the shade that really had me quite interested was that kind of like purpley shade, because I was like, oh, okay. The orange seems to have like a little bit of a shimmer to it, which I was like, oh, okay, I don't really know how I feel about that. And I say this all the time, you can only tell so much about these things through like arm swatches. I need to see it on the face, and NYX did actually start to add those on, and ho mama, I'm very glad that they did, because whatever feelings I had towards this palette, it went. The purple looks okay, but it's also really, really shiny, and I'm like, did you put like a bunch of highlighter onto these people? Because it looks weird. The orange looks frightful and looks really textured. And to be fair, I will say I appreciate that they're not retouching things, so well done them. I'll also say that the purple on the deeper skin tone looks so ashy, so ashy. But the gold, the orangey gold, looks a little bit better, like a smidgen, obviously better than it looks on the more fair model. So I can't figure out who this cheek palette is for. But anyway, seeing it swatched or would like put on the face. I'm like, no, thank you. You're not interesting to me. Then the dual-ended liners. So they come in black and green, black and purple, and black and pink, and they're $13 each. And here's the thing, like on the surface, these are kind of interesting, and you know, it almost looks like they're kind of good, but they look so lackluster when they're actually on the eye. Hate to say it, but She Glam did it better. I'm a bit confused as well with the swatches on the arm, because they've swatched kind of the chromey bit, but I'm like, did you put that on top of the black, or is it by itself? Because obviously the chrome is going to look a little bit better on top of a black, particularly if it's a black based chrome, which these seem to be. These just seem to be poorly executed, kind of like, well, we better add more things to the collection, so pop them in. And it's like, well, did you necessarily need these? I don't know. Then of course there are their butter lip glosses, and they're in 4 different shades. They're $6 each. Again, they decided to show them as swatches on the arm, and the kind of grey shade looked terrible when swatched on the arm, and then you see them on the lips. Let's talk about them one by one. Actually, weirdly, the grey one looks least terrible. It looks okay on the lips, but it doesn't get much better. I will say the kind of raspberry shade is okay. I think that's probably between the grey and the raspberry, they're kind of the nicest ones. Oh, the purple. Oh my god, on the deeper skin, it looks patchy. It looks like baby's first makeup. It looks absolutely atrocious, and that is such a beautiful model, and they did her dirty, and I'm very angry for her. And then the pink, oh my god, again, where's the pigment? Why is it so streaky? Why does it look like that on her? So many questions, so few answers. Yeah, it looks terrible. Then of course they have their Beetlejuice gloss as well. It's in, I think it's the shade Pomegranate, and that is retailing for $9. So it's a hydrating lip gloss. That one looks pretty all right. Like it's not bad. I'm not going to get angry about that. The kind of things that I feel like a lot of people really liked were the beauty sponge and travel case. That's $15. And the under eye patches, I was kind of like, oh, okay, but they're reusable. They're $13. I kind of love the little travel case, because obviously you could use that wherever you want. The little under eye patches, they're super cute. I don't hate those. All in all, I feel like this could have been a much smaller collection. I'm even just trying to think of like what was actually in it. I don't like the eyeshadow palette. I was initially interested in the blushes, but they looked absolutely terrible. The dual-ended liners, absolutely not. No. The under eye patches, maybe. The little sponge kit, maybe. The glasses, ugh. I mean, this is just a bit all over the place. I feel like they didn't do enough in terms of testing these and going through proper product development. It is all over the place, and yeah. I mean, the term cash grab is used almost like as a negative thing a lot of the time. It's like, well, anything that's released is always going to be a cash grab. They're not putting out something for charity to be like, oh, we are doing this for the betterment of mankind. But this does feel very like, we didn't care about this IP, which I find so hard to believe, because who doesn't love Beetlejuice? People who are dead inside. For me, being a long time Beetlejuice lover, I feel very like, about this. But I'm also like, intrigued to see what other brands are going to do, because obviously they aren't going to be the only ones that get their little paws on this. Q Colourpop coming in with whatever it is that they're going to do, which, oh my god, the dread I already feel with the ashy tones that are going to come from that. Like, just because it's like about an IP that is about like death doesn't mean that you have to make things look ashy and dead, is all I'm going to say. Then It's Belle Cosmetics revealed their new collaboration with Rise Sea Beauty, and it's their Tropical Nights collection. It's available from August 25th, so very, very soon at 3 p.m. AST. Now, I would normally say that I'm an affiliate with the brand, because I am, but affiliate codes aren't actually going to work on this collection. However, they have said that you can use the code THANKYOU10, so I'm going to put that down in the description box. By the way, you guys know anything that's an affiliate code or link is always like marked with an asterisk, so keep that in mind. But the code THANKYOU10 will give you 10% off. The palette itself is €35.65. The highlighter and blush palette is €29.25, and the bundle, which excludes the discounts, is €57.60. Oh my goodness, let's talk about the eyeshadow palette. I saw the sneak peek of it obviously last week, talking about that top right hand corner, and I was already in love. I was in love because there were greens. I was also in love because it's Belle Cosmetics, and I really, really enjoy their formula. They're one of those kind of like unsung indie brands that if you don't get anywhere near enough recognition, and I will say I wouldn't have really known about them if it wasn't for my friend Daniela, who kind of was like, you should get the Break the Rules palette, and I was like, how dare you tell me what to do? And then I did, and she was right and I was wrong, so there you go. I'm a big enough person to admit that, and ever since I got that, I've been like completely obsessed with their stuff. I think the thing that they do the best are their metallics, their duochromes, etc. Initially their mattes weren't very strong. If you got their cool summer collection, you were probably like, oh, some of these mattes aren't great. They definitely improved it with the Fruity Realm collection and improved it even more so with the Pixie Grove collection. So I feel like they have taken any of the things that they have gotten critiques for and really moved on with that. I love how each of these are segmented into like little quads, almost like each of the corners represents its own thing. The bottom right hand corner very much is like indicative or links in with the blush and highlighter palette, which I personally like because it feels like it gives you that like little bit extra in terms of options. I love these. I think these are absolutely stunning. I will absolutely be getting them. The blush and highlighter palette, okay, I will say this until I'm blue in the face. It's grand to show me finger swatches, but don't have that be the only thing. I need to see this on the actual face. Right, that duochrome highlighter, yes, I love that. I will die for that. No, I won't. That's ridiculous. But I think it's really, really pretty. The kind of shimmery blushes, I'm not 100% certain on, simply because I'm 34 years old. I know, hard to believe. Insert your compliments here. But obviously the older you get, the more textured your skin gets. And I feel like having like a blush that is more shimmer heavy will just pick up texture that I probably didn't even know that I had. And I don't need that. My self-esteem is already pretty low. I don't need any help on that. I really want to see this on the actual face. To the best of my knowledge, I actually don't think they've done any like highlighter quads so far. I think they've done blushes before, but they've always been like too deep for me. So I am intrigued for sure. I want to see this, and is it like a very light buildable formula? If it was, then maybe, but I think for the moment the main thing that I would be looking at is the eyeshadow palette, because I'm trying to have like some amount of like general cop-onery is the technical term, of course. Now, I've been keeping an eye out on Pastel roses for quite some time, and I'm always like in their corner kind of going, I want this to work for you. But it's felt like the last couple of eyeshadow palettes have been a bit like disjointed, not entirely working. Like you can see how some of the shades link in, and then others are like, what is going on here? I feel like they've finally broken that. They have their Crushed Diamonds collection, and there's 4 quads, and they are so, so pretty. I haven't named them other than palettes 1, 2, 3, and 4, which, do you know what? Fair enough. If you've used all of your creativity to make the palettes, that's grand. They're £11.99 each, or you can get the total set for £46.94. They also released their 7 Wonders collection, which are their singles, which obviously is something that Pastel Roses are known for. They do some fantastic singles. The shades include Endless Ocean, Hidden Treasure, Mystic Falls, Lost Labyrinth, Ancient Gaze, Oasis, and Celestial Glow, and they're £6.99 each, or you could get all 7 of them for £46.94. I'm going to talk about those palettes first. These look so pretty, very, very look. The kind of packaging of these remind me a little bit of Copacetic Cosmetics, and I say that with love because Copacetics is really, really good. Can I also just say kudos? We're seeing, I know it's a small color story. A quad is like the smallest color story you can get outside of a trio or a duo, you know, but this feels cohesive. This feels so pretty, and you have enough light and enough depth there to make stuff out of, well, 3 of them. The 4th palette is obviously all like really special shades, but like you have enough there that you can make something out of it. Let's talk about the more neutral palette first. Oh my goodness. I mean, there are no words. It's so pretty. Yeah, the shade Timeless and Mineral are absolutely gorgeous. They'll obviously take your breath away, but those mattes look really pretty, and obviously they're so similar to each other in tone that they're going to blend quite nicely. Would I like an extra kind of shade in there to help? Yes, but that's because I'm a maximalist, so I'll really struggle to get rid of that aspect of my personality. Then the pink palette. Oh my goodness, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Do I need it? No. Do I want it? Yes. I just think this looks, can I just say, right, this is, you know how like Pat McGrath was doing like Bridgerton, and then Kiko Milano did Bridgerton. I feel like this is Bridgerton. This whole thing is more Bridgerton-esque, and I think it's absolutely so, so beautiful. Then the next one is this like much more like deep vampy, but there's still enough neutral in there. The shades Midnight and Stone are absolutely gorgeous. I feel like Stone, it looks like it's a more crumbly texture, so I'd love to know exactly how you work with that, probably like with a silicone applicator. Ooh, absolutely gorgeous. And I feel like that would work quite nicely with the more neutral palette. The one that is obviously the most different then is this sort of like topper-esque one. But my goodness, like when you see it on, you're like, oh, that isn't so much a topper. It's like the Effervescent from DD Signature with Makeup on Your Radar. It reminds me of that. So if you couldn't get that, this might be a good alternative. My goodness. Well done, Pastel Roses. I've been wanting you to do some like really fun palette. And I know quads aren't normally my thing, but this is like very cohesive, so I'm here for it. Let's talk about then the 7 eyeshadow shades. They're called the 7 Wonders and they look so pretty. I do feel there's like some shades there that look almost a little bit repetitive when you see them in the pan. However, when you see them swatched, you're like, okay, I can kind of see some of the nuances here a little bit better. Do these necessarily call to me as much as their palette? Not so much. But I'm going to talk through them shade by shade. This is Lost Labyrinth, and I gotta say, I could picture this like with a nice like deep brown smoked out, and then just put a little bit of this onto the inner corner and smoke it out. I think that's very pretty. Then we have Oasis. That feels more of like a toppery shade. I feel a little bit more drawn to kind of more luminescent sort of multichromes because I think they're a little bit more rare. You don't see them as much. Then we have Celestial Glow, and I'd love to see that potentially as like, again, an inner corner highlight. I'd like to see, could it be kind of buffed out to be more of a diffused base? Could you use it as a highlighter? I have many thoughts. This, I was kind of surprised to see this one swatched out, Ancient Gaze. I thought this was going to be a little bit more bronzy, so the gold in it kind of surprised me. Gotta say, this is probably my least favorite, but there you go. The shade Mystic Falls, I mean, we've seen these ones, the purple to blue. I mean, they're a dime a dozen, that you can kind of get them anywhere. Kind of similar with Hidden Treasure, that purple to blue to green. It's something that we've seen kind of time and time again. The shade Endless Ocean reminds me a little bit of Dose of Colours Block Party, was it the Teal Me More shade? It reminds me a little bit of that. I don't think there's anything wildly special about that one, but I'd say again, put it on a black base, buff it out, it's gonna look really pretty. Then we have MAC Cosmetics, and this literally just launched, and I'm gonna say it right now, I did buy it. I did, because I'm becoming more and more interested in concealers, so there you go. This is their Studio Radiance 24-hour Luminous Lift Concealer. It's £26 for 9 millilitres, and it comes in 44 shades. They claim that it's a concealer that hydrates, lifts and brightens the skin. The MAC Cosmetics Studio Radiance 24-hour Luminous Lift Concealer, by the way, that is so hard to say, is here to answer all your beauty wishes. Really? All of my beauty wishes. How do I age backwards? How do I need to come up with more beauty wishes that aren't so linked in with ageism, but there you go. This serum infused weightless formula melts into the skin for 24 hours of buildable coverage and immediate hydration. It's infused with 31 hydrating, plumping and illuminating skincare ingredients, including niacinamide, vitamin C and hyaluronic acid. To be fair, can we actually go anywhere these days without niacinamide and hyaluronic acid managing to make their way in there? Probably not. I will say though, obviously I'm super interested in this. I generally really enjoy MAC based products. One of my favourite foundations from last year was actually their Studio Wear foundation, the glowy one. I love that. It is one of my go-tos. It's up there with my House Labs. I really enjoy it. So I'm looking at this, and obviously like I have like some dark circles, I'm aging, I have very dry skin, so I get a lot of lines under my eyes. So all of these things around like the niacinamide and the vitamin C of like brightening, etc. I'm like, okay, that's quite interesting. The kind of shade range looks okay, not fantastic. It looks like we're missing a couple when it gets to the deeper shades. Like it looks like we're missing a few. Like they've covered like the light and the fair pretty okay, then the medium to tan, etc. But it feels a little bit like we've kind of dropped off a little bit when it gets to the deeper shades, which is a little bit kind of unusual because MAC are normally excellent when it comes to these things. So I don't know, but it does look like it fits across a couple of people. But again, there does seem to be kind of some big jumps in shades when you're looking at it. Before and after seems like, again, not wildly retouched and quite believable. So I'm intrigued by it for sure. If you guys didn't know, there is of course a whole batch of films coming out that are just like revisions of older films, and Alien Romulus is coming out. So obviously a brand has ended up doing a collaboration on that, and this is Phoenix Rising Cosmetics. This is available right now for pre-order, and you can't seem to buy any of these items singularly. It's $124.99 available for pre-order, and the estimated shipping date, keep this in mind, isn't until the 15th of October. Now, I personally, I'm okay with a pre-order if it's like a week or two, but for me that feels a little bit like too much. Maybe I'm just being a little bit unnecessary. And I think they're doing this because the film Alien was in the cinemas in August, so they're like trying to kind of capture on the relevance of that. I don't know. And also I can't figure out exactly what's in this collection because there's 2 eyeshadow palettes which are weird shapes, and you know how I feel about weird shapes anyway, and I'm like, oh. So essentially you're getting 1 £6 eyeshadow palette, which fair enough, and then 1 £4 eyeshadow palette, which is the shape of the aliens, which, you know, grand, fair enough. Then there's some black something, which by the way, I am saying black something because I don't know what it is, and I searched their website and it's very confusing. I don't know if it's meant to be a blush, you know how they have those black blushes, yeah. I don't know if it's that, if it's meant to be a skincare, I don't know what it's meant to be. And they also then have like this multi-chrome liquid shadowy thing. So that's like 4 products for $124.99. And yes, obviously it comes in the box or whatever. I don't know about you. I feel like that's a lot of money. And they also didn't put up any swatches of these. I'm going to talk about the £4 palette first, because what in the, like, this reminds me of Urban Decay, you know, when they did that, was it the Chinese New Year £4 palette? It reminds me of that. They don't even have swatches. Yikes. Not great. Then the £6 palette is a little bit more interesting, but it's all like multi-chromey, metallic-y shades. I already have a lot of these from other brands. You guys know how I feel about weirdly shaped palettes. They drive me nuts. I don't know how to store them. It's a whole thing. They have no swatches. Drives me a little bit nuts. The multi-chrome, that's fine, but like I can get that from other brands for like a fraction of the cost, and I don't have to be getting these things. And then again, that black, whatever it is, all it says is Alien Romulus, only in theaters, 8th of the 16th, 24, which by the way, I always get really confused with the Americans dates, because the, like, whenever I read that, I'm like, there's not 16 months in a year. It's very confusing. So obviously it came into cinemas 16th of August. Yeah, I've no idea what that is. I think this is grossly overpriced. The fact that there's no swatches, you can't buy these things singularly, hurts my brain. Absolutely not. Then we have Patrick Ta and their Major Skin Hydra-Luxe Luminous Skin Perfecting Foundation. It's coming out on the 26th of August on Sephora, and weirdly is coming out the next day on Patrick Ta's own website. There's 30 shades. They're $58. According to Sephora, they say that it's best for dry, combo and normal skin, and it gives you medium coverage. It's a hydrating, radiant finish with hyaluronic acid, because everyone loves a bit of hyaluronic acid. But there's also squalene and kombucha for that fun little aftertaste. I will say though, it does look like there's a decent shade range here. I don't hate it. The before and after looks relatively okay. It's definitely very luminous. If you have oily skin, I would say run fast, run far away. This probably isn't going to work for you, but you'll know that. You know as soon as you hear like a luminous foundation. That ain't for you, in the same way that like a matte foundation is going to be my absolute worst nightmare as a dry skinned hoe. I don't know though, $58 seems kind of pricey, and Patrick Ta is kind of tricky to get over here. They do seem like they have like some decent undertones. A bit confused by some of the names, but you know, it is what it is. Like they have a good representation of the fair to light, then the medium to tan looks fairly okay, and he's also got the dark to deep. Yeah, it's not bad. Like I don't think it's bad in terms of like its shade representation. Yeah, I suppose we'll see what the story is and what the wear tests etc of these things are. Yeah, I'm at that point where I'm like, I am a little bit more interested in foundations than I would have been historically, so who even am I? I don't know. Then we have Caliray. You might remember that Caliray was a brand that was launched by the original founder of Urban Decay, and they've kind of gone off and done their own thing. They are available, by the way, on Sephora, the US and Canadian version, and they've already put this up. It isn't available yet. It's going to be available from the 1st of September. This is their Blurry Blush Pore Minimizing Cream Blush with niacinamide. That's right. We should do like a drinking game where every time I say niacinamide in upcoming episodes, we take a drink, but that could actually be extremely dangerous. So there's 5 shades. There's 0.14 ounces each, and they're $25 each. So there's Epic, which is a cool orchid pink, Dream State, a bright clean pink, Sublime and Muted Berry, Dope, a rosy mauve, and Zen, a nude pink. According to Sephora, they say that you'll get a natural finish and it's very long wearing. They have their niacinamide. They also have kaolin clay, which is apparently going to create a blurred out effect, and it absorbs oil. So this might be very, very good for those of you who are oily and have wanted to have like a liquidy cream blush but find that it doesn't wear well throughout the day. That could be quite interesting. interesting. They also have some copper peptides in there which condition skin, calm redness, and visibly improves texture and protects the skin barrier. I mean, you'd have to put a lot of that on to have it like actually protect the skin barrier, but I'm kind of interested. Obviously it comes in recyclable packaging. I say obviously because that's part of Calaray's whole thing. I like this. I think it looks pretty. I do feel like maybe Dope and Zen are a little bit too close to each other in terms of their shades, but that's just me being me. Shade Epic is very, very pretty, but this is where you kind of see, and this is my issue, it doesn't look fantastic on a deeper skin tone. And I feel like they probably needed to work a little bit more on that. That looked quite ashy. And she doesn't have a very, very deep skin tone, so I am a little bit kind of worried about that. Dream State is quite pretty, for sure. Probably on the skin it looks similar enough to Epic, but maybe that's just me being me. Nice enough. Then we have Sublime. Oh, they've gone like blush blind with the deeper model, and I kind of can't tell if it works or not. Like, oh, I don't know. Like I said, Dope looks very, very similar then to Zen, particularly when you see it on the models. There's not that much distinction. I will say though, Dope does not seem to work for the deeper skinned model. Again, she's not even that deep skinned, so that does kind of give me pause for thought. I'm intrigued by this for sure, but I'm a little bit worried about the inclusivity. And I know it's not something that like directly affects me because I am a frightening shade of white. Like, it is terrifying. So I have the privilege of like most cosmetics being made for me, but I find it very, very strange that there's still blushes, etc. being released that aren't necessarily catering to, like, we don't have to have every single shade catered to everyone, because that's insane. Like, obviously there are blushes that aren't going to work for me, and I can't get annoyed about that. That would be silly. But you need to have some like within the line that are going to work, be deeper, darker shades, and not give that sort of an ashy finish. So I'm a little bit confused about that. I don't get it. Like, it doesn't feel very inclusive, and I'm a little bit like disappointed on that, if I'm 100% honest. Then we have Victoria Beckham Beauty. Who even knew that I would talk about this? This is the concealer pen with TFC8, and basically it's like a proprietary blend where they've worked with Augustina Spader, who Victoria Beckham has said that she's used their skincare for years, and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting, let me look that up. And it's like how the other, not even half lives, how the other 0.1% lives like, oh my god, like €400 or something for like a small product, and I'm like, no, I'm all right, thank you. This is their Luminous Coverage Concealer. It's $68 for 2.4 mils. That's not a lot of product for that amount of money, and it comes in 16 shades. I will say it does go very dark and it does go quite light, so interesting. But part of like the interesting aspect of this is that they have this clinically proven skin benefits, which by the way they've said is in a clinical study of 31 female subjects aged 30 to 65. But they did use Image Pro software, so at least there's a little bit of objectivity to that. But they said that they've formulated that TFC8, which is by Augustina Spader, and that concealer pen formula reduces the appearance of fine lines and dark circles, decreases eye puffiness, and improves the appearance of hyperpigmentation. I mean, that's interesting for sure, and it apparently gives you an 8-hour nourishing veil. I don't know, it's a light to medium coverage, and they say that it doesn't settle into fine lines or pores. I mean, grand, fair enough. Ew, $68 though, that is that, like, have I lost my mind? That is expensive, right? That is expensive. Like, when you think about it, the Patrick Ta foundation is $58 and this is $10 more expensive. I mean, to be fair, she's working with Augustina Spader, which is part of why I think that has the blue top to it, because Augustina Spader's packaging is all like blue and gold. Looks super, super look. 16 shades isn't wildly inclusive, let's be 100% honest, but it does go from very light to very deep. But at that price, I don't know about you, I wouldn't want to be mixing and matching. You know, I wouldn't want to be getting like 2 pens to try and get the perfect shade. I don't know. I appreciate again that they're very light and very deep, but this feels a little bit, I don't know. The before and after looks pretty decent, but also if they're saying the whole thing is around like reducing puffiness, fine lines, aging, etc., why do you have such a young model showing a before and after? Like, that's like, they have not lived their lives. They're fine. You've got these, like, show us the average person. Show us the average person. I'd love to see that. Although, mind you, the average person can't afford Victoria Beckham, which, you know, fair enough. Then we have Viseart Paris. If you don't know, Viseart actually started off as part of, I believe it was Dior Beauty, and then they became their own thing. This is their Visepro Neutral Matte 25E Anniversary Palette, and is available now for €73.09. So this is limited edition, and it envisions their move towards sustainability. Basically, basically they've made kind of this new packaging where you can kind of use it in lots of different ways, which is kind of cool. They have a zero plastic easel folio cover with a removable modular compact capsule and interchangeable magnetic pans. They say that this versatile and luxurious palette meets the demands of the most acclaimed backstage sets and is polished enough to adorn your vanity. This is definitely made with a makeup artist in mind, because again, a lot of these shades are very, very versatile for a lot of makeup artistry looks. I think it's interesting. I do love that one of the shades is called Souris, which is French for mouse. And I'm like, what do you have on your eyelids? Souris. Which, by the way, I know I did just like butcher that, but there you go. It looks fine. Like, do I love this? No, I think they had like a palette like this. I think this is like a reimagining, but in like different packaging. The packaging itself is kind of part of what I want to talk about. Like, they have those interchangeable pans, etc. And basically you can place it in lots of different ways as like easel, fold, flat, tray, folio, etc. Which I actually think is quite cool and is going to be quite helpful for makeup artists. For the standard person like you and me, no, we'd be like, what is this? I don't need this. Don't think it's bad. The colours, they're fine. You know, they're very kind of safe. You'll get a lot of use out of that. Not a bad thing. Personally, I don't gravitate towards that, but it's totally grand. I do appreciate though that they're going towards like more sustainable packaging. So that's not bad at all. The very last thing that we're talking about is a sneak peek, and this is Adept Cosmetics. And they basically said, that rose mauve palette you asked for 2 years ago, well, it's finally ready. You crafty bee. So it looks like they're using the same sort of packaging that they did for the Flying Fiddles, because it has like that kind of flowery thing. It looks very, very pretty. I like that shade. Can't wait to see what other shades they put with it, because Adept always get me and I get very angry about it, but it is what it is. There's just certain brands that I apparently lose all rhyme and reason for. But my gorgeous friends, that is it. I do have my favourite comment though. It is from the fabulous Christina, who said, goodness, I'm so happy to have found your channel. Where did you hide it all this time, YouTube? Yes, where did you hide it, YouTube? There is a bit of binge watching going on the next few weeks because I love it. You are so entertaining and smart. Well, I'll have you know, Christina, that flattery will get you absolutely everywhere. That's right. Feed my ego and I am all for it. I'm not even going to pretend to be modest and humble. Worship me like the fabulous god that I am. Yeah, I was also going to like choose Jen's thing where she said I look like Betty Page, and I was like, I actually don't think I can take any more compliments this week. You're all too nice to me. But my gorgeous friends, thank you so much for watching. Do please like, comment and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell and do please share, because sharing is caring, except of course for STDs, in which case just wrap it up. Don't be gross. But that is it. That is the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.